So, what was the house that you grew up in like?
My house was in Via Strada, Rochior, number 59, in fact. Well, let me tell you what the house was. Was a single-standing house with about 1 acre of land. And we had a so-called cottage, how do you call what it's the servants probably were sometime. Not a cottage, how do you call that? A carriage house we had too. A little carriage house. We had there, I don't remember to have any cows, but we had, when I was already born, then we had lots of animals. Dogs, chickens, everything you can think about. But we had also dogs. No, dog, do we have a dog? No, cats. We had cats always. And we had lots of mice. Now the house, when I was born, we had an outhouse. No, so we had to use a potty in the house and then bring it down near the outhouse. At night we didn't want to go, especially nobody wanted to go at night. But we went during the day, which was not pleasant because it was all full of flies. All flies around you. Ugh. And it was not, it's a septic tank. It was just staying there.
There's just a big hole in the ground?
Big hole. And then it was filled up. They broke it and they made the hole bigger. But somebody had to break it and shit all there. Ugh. Anyway, we had no water till I was, I don't know, about 7, 6, I don't remember. The water we bought every day. The guy came with a big tank and we bought it. And of course we boiled, we never drank the water, any water. And electricity, we didn't have electricity till about Harry was in high school. So it means Harry was in high school. He was born 1922. He was supposed to be about 11 in high school because we have the public school is 4 years and then it's high school, the lycée. So that means we still didn't have electricity, so we used kerosene lamps. And Harry was reading till all time of the night, till 5 o'clock in the morning, like you. He stayed late. He couldn't get up in the morning, but he was in good school. And he was a good reader, but he started reading newspaper when he was 4, I think, 5. And
that's when you started to talk.
Yeah, and I started talking at 4. My mother, I probably Harry told you that my mother went to the teacher at the high school to complain about my son. My son is getting crazy. He reads all the time. It's terrible. He said, lady, I wish every mother would come to complain that to me. So I said I don't like school. I didn't want to go to school. I told my grandfather back. My grandfather lived with us. My grandfather, my mother's father, he lived till about 70s. So he lived with us. And we didn't have so much room really. We had first room we come in, enter like this room.
About this size?
About this size. Which was a big oven like we saw yesterday there in the Stadel. The oven we saw yesterday? Or the oven we saw before yesterday too, this oven we saw.
Oh, in the Hart House.
The Hart House, the same thing. Same kind of oven, but heated by wood. So we were supposed to buy a truck full of lumber, and we had somebody cutting for us the lumber, because back at that time still was cutting by hand. Eventually, when I was about 12, was cutting by electric saw, which was quite advanced.
Mm.
But we bought at least one truck one in the fall because we needed it. And so that was one room, and it was an oven, a stove, and there was a big bed, not a trunk bed, a double bed.
So the first room was like, you walked in the door, and the first room was like a 15 by 20, or 10 by 12 by 20,
no,
12 by 15.
15 by 20, it's about this size. This is about 15 by 20.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. 12 or 15. And then
Then you have a room, the other side like this. That was a kitchen, sleeping room for children. 2 children slept there
in the first room,
in the first room.
it was the first room that you walked into was a kitchen / room that,
Bedroom, children bedroom. So you were 5.
so like when you had to come home, if somebody came home late at night, other people would be sleeping in the room that you'd have to walk
Oh
to.
yeah. There was a room going that way, which was a little longer room. I don't know why. It was a longer room. It was about 20 by 12, or 25 by 12, which my grandfather had. Till he died in 19. When did he die? When he was about 7 or 8, 7. So it'd be about 1933 or something like that. Hard to know. He could have a family, can't send him the family.
Yeah.
Then was a room, I'll draw it to you there also. There's a room going down this side, like there, was a master bedroom with 2 extra beds, 3 children. Let's see, my parents, I was sleeping with my parents for a long time, till I was about 5, in the bed, their bed. And then were these 2 beds, which was the 2 children. Now it was one girl, that means she had to have her own bed. Then eventually we had 2, 2, and 1, right? It was the double bed in the kitchen, one double bed in my parents' room, and 1 single bed in my parents' room.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite concentrated. So there's another room which we call salon, which was so-called living room. It's only for guests. Imagine, they didn't put those children there. They didn't put, to make it easier, they kept a room just for occasion to have a guest. One entire room, which is the size, the largest room in the house, kept it for guests.
Did you have a lot of guests?
No! It was empty, but they didn't heat it. See, the idea was that they didn't heat that room. Now, what happens, however, we got so many sickness, which are, like
Scarlet fever,
whooping cough, all this are taken from one child to another. So our doctor, family doctor, didn't report us, because if we reported, we had to go to hospital. My mother wouldn't like us to go to hospital, so we used the salon as a
sick room,
which was mostly busy. So on the sick room, busy quite a bit. But sometimes we wonder that these should be taken, like chick pox, this thing like this, that children should take one another, that to get over it.
Right.
But that was the entire house, right? And then was the yard. I told you the cottage house, what do you call that? Before.
The outhouse? Oh, the cottage house, the carriage house.
The carriage house. It was really funny because it was not finished, but then I don't know where the maids, we had a maid all the time.
You had a maid?
All the time, yeah. We had a maid and somebody from the country. They were paid nothing. They were given only food, but my mother had 5 children, so we had some maid. I think we had a maid. We had a maid, and also we had a washroom. It's called Zamfira. Remember we spoke about Zamfira? Never heard. Francine knows about him. Zamfira, she helped us to wash. We had lots of wash. And, you put it in the water, in a big tub, and you boil the water first, you put it there, and you mix it like this, and then you scrub it on a scrubber. You saw the scrubber at the museum at Hart, or
I
the
think
scrubber.
so.
Yeah, the scrubber, that is the scrubber.
Yeah.
And then you put in cold water, and that means you have to buy extra water. We didn't have water.
Oh yeah. You had to buy water?
And that was we did about once a month, you see, that Zamfira came. Zamfira is very famous for the fact that we used to have food, and we used to have, by the end we used to have a melon. She would take the rind, empty it completely, and put everything inside. Salad, meat, potatoes, dessert, everything in this rind. She'll mix everything up. And this we call it Zamfira. That's the name, Zamfira. Maybe you know it, Francinos, but says, oh, you're doing a Zamfira? Means mix up the things.
That doesn't sound that tasty.
No, she was crazy. She was in fact I remember that she was a Adventist. Seven-day Adventist. Because in Romania mostly they are Orthodox. You know, Eastern Greek Orthodox.
What colors do you remember in your house?
I don't remember the colors really very well. I shouldn't know. I know, however, that the house is a problem. How it was built on a how do you call that lagoon? On a
Swamp?
marsh, a swamp. So all our walls were wet. Not very helpful for my knee, for my hip, right? So we had to get work, and my father did well for a while, to work as a salesman for the big textile company. Then we did work, we had a construction worker getting I remember they made a hole for the walls, and found out that a little river underneath the house. So we looked at that, and I spring. Just
You kept on buying your water. You could have just taken it right
right,
from the
they
spring.
could have done that, right? It's a good idea. But then, so no, but by that time we do a little better. You know, it's 1930s, and it's very funny that we did the best in 1930s.
You mean when everybody else was doing the work?
Right. Because we start progressing. My father was his own enemy, because he bought on cash and sold on credit. He had a store with Uncle Isaac, with Uncle Aaron, Isaac, with Uncle Harry, with Uncle Meyer. They had a store, a textile store, of course. Every Jew has a textile store. And when it came 1929, you know, they never paid him anymore. People didn't have money. They have to sell them on credit. So he got broke. So now we were doing terrible. You know, we were 7 people, right? We were not 7 yet. We were 6, because never came. Bill came 2 years later. 1 year later. So he was lucky.
What year is it?
1930. See, after the crash. Miriel, my father got a job with a company called Bohush, which is the biggest textile company. It was owned by a Kai Maxwell. I don't remember the name, but well, how that was nationalized is that the king put him in jail, put the owner in jail, and took the company. The king was a crook, you know, King Carl.
The king?
I'll tell you about the king later.
Is there a king of Romania?
Right.
There was 2.
No more, but was a king.
Until when?
Till 1945. 1946.
Oh. So how... You're in
Bodoshan.
This is all in
But my father got a job in Chernovitz. It's called Romania's Chernovitz, and Austrian is Chernovitz, because that place is in Bukovina. Bukovina was a province of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and they spoke only, and there were no Romanians there. But after the war, they gave us Romania because they took everything from Austria, because Austria lost the war, First World War. Bukovina, there are only Ruthenians and Jews.
Ruthenian?
Ruthenian is a branch of Slavic, like Russian, but Ruthenian. Ruthenian, or Russian, they're Poles, but that's in Galicia. They call it Galicianer. Galicianer is part of it from Bukovina and part is north of Bukovina, which also was Austria for many years, for 500 years.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so this factory, Buhush, which was located down in the center of Romania, had different branches. One of the Chernovitz, one of the Kishinev, one of the Galați, one of the Cluj, Craiova, anyway, the main cities, but not the Butrășani. Butrășani is another town. 15,000 Jews and 15,000 Romanians. Equal, exactly.
Was there much interaction between Jews and Romanians?
Anyway, so my father got this job with Buhush, the traveling salesman, at Chernovitz. So he went every week to Chernovitz, and then he traveled all around his district by trains, third class, second class. Your second class, no, second class, or third class, second class. But he tried to make so many cities, and more cities he made, more money he made. So he tries to make in a day 2 cities. So he traveled by night there were no sleepers, just standing, so second class. He traveled from Sunday to Friday. Friday come home for Shabbos. He wanted to come for Shabbos. But many times, his train was late, like with a snowstorm. We had snowstorm worse than he would arrive Friday night, late, and he would still take the cab, not horse, not a horse cab, we didn't have any cars.
Yeah, carriage.
A carriage to get home. He would look like nobody could see him from the neighbors.
Did you have horses?
We didn't have horses, but neighbors had horses. I did ride horses with neighbors when I was 5 or 6. Anyway, so my father got this job, which was really on salary. It was not bad. See, eventually in 1936 or 37, they put him on commission, which meant harder work, but he made more money because he was so good. He made so much. For instance, he would leave on Monday till Friday. Sunday, he would go to a town, to little towns around. Stephanie, Savannah, Herlo, and he'd take one of the children, like me or Harry or Marcel. He would take us because just to get away from my mother. My mother didn't want him or them. But he liked to go there. So he was going for the day. What he did, we had 2 taxis, real cars in Butrășani, 2.
In the whole town?
In the whole town. He ordered 3 salesmen who rent one of them for the day and go there they'll rent one. You see, with a chauffeur, they didn't know how to drive. And the guy who drove didn't know how to drive. Don't worry, they didn't know.
They could have just let Marcel drive.
Right, like Marcel, right. So we went to the store there, so I knew about how sometimes my father would send me, or they would send me to see if he would cash too. He would not only sell, but he was also cashing, really, hard cash, from every store. So
he was taking the money from each, like moving the money around to each.
Yeah, but he was taking the money from the stores, and when I was about 10, he was sending me with Harry or me with somebody to the bank deposited and for the company.
How old were you?
Or 10, maybe 11. Because he wanted to make sure that, he never wanted to keep money home. Because it's dangerous to keep money home because he collected a lot of money. Collected money like equivalent here would be $100,000. So, and then you have to be careful. I had to go there and I be careful how the guy counts. They're crooks, bang, bang, and the banks, this.
The banks were crooks?
Yeah, you have to be careful. They have count 3 times and give it to me back. And then if we disagree, call the supervisor. He was 10 years old, or 11 years old. Harry did that more than I did, because he was much older. I was 15. And also so he had a hard life really, because until about he worked till about 1940, in fact, even after the war started. But in 1940, what happened is that Russia and Soviet Union, not Russia, Soviet Union said, they made a treaty with Nazi Germany in 1939 that they will divide Poland between them. See, Stalin thought that's a good thing because they say, oh, we'll have a buffer. If we get part of Poland, then Germany not to come here, they will not come here. It will be a non-aggression pact. And that happened because the British and French were pussyfooting with the Soviets. They were in Moscow all the time to do a treaty, non-aggression pact, and to be allies. And they were so afraid of the Soviets, they decided not to do anything. So they made a treaty with the Germany.
So
it's called Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. And this treaty said that Russia... Molotov was Secretary of State or Foreign Ministry.
Is that where do you know the Molotov cocktail?
Yeah, right.
Is that named, what is?
That's right, named after him. So
that, I had one question about, when you say that you had 15,000 and 15,000 in your town, 15,000 Jews, 15,000 Romanians, were they economically separate? Like they didn't shop at each other's stores?
No, they
didn't hang out? They just didn't?
They did.
Did they go to
For
the
instance,
same schools?
we shopped our produce was mostly from Romania because nobody was farm. Textile was only from the Jews because they had all stores. So you see, they all shopped. They did. But for instance, I was so kosher that I wouldn't buy milk from Romania. It has to be from a Jew who had a cow. There was only one Jew in the entire Romania and Bodashan had cows who sell milk.
That's a monopoly.
No, because the Jews didn't like to do that. It was too hard work. Well, it's not too hard work. They were not prepared to do that. In general, maybe there are more, but I don't know though. I didn't finish the story. That was about my. So what else you want?
Your dad was working until like 1940, until the war started, and then what happened to him?
No, Russia took over Bukovina and Bessarabia with the treaty which they made with Germany. They made that they will divide Romania too.
But they had control over these other countries, or?
It's like the United States now with Iraq, right? They got the power. Romania had no power. So they decided...
What did the king have to say about it?
King could not to say. He was to go to war. At the same time, they made also a pact, the Chiano-Ribbentrop Pact, another one that they gave part of Transylvania to Hungary. So Romania was dismembered really.
Mm-hmm.
But because Romania didn't have those before World War I, get it?
Mm-hmm.
So they said, okay, World War I was terrible. So everything was turned back, the clock. But Russia didn't have Bukovina. But Russia said, you kept Bessarabia for 20 years, I want the payment, I want Bukovina. So they took Perseverance. So Buhush, I mean, again, the textile enterprise, had an office in Chernovitz and one in Kishinev. Kishinev was the capital of Bessarabia in
Bessarabia?
Bessarabia is called the Moldavia. The Republic of Moldova. They made a new thing that Stalin made that. And they lost, Stalin lost a lot for Russia by making all these countries. They couldn't exist. Now, so my father was out of a job, Chernovitz.
Mm-hmm.
Gone. So he was really in.
No, it was 1940.
1940.
But where were you living in 1940?
Well, 1940 we moved already. We moved 1930. Well, I was 9. 9 are still living there. Well, that is a terrible thing too. I should say that I make a plan to this. When I was 9, I decided to have a birthday party. So with all my school kids, and I was a scary little kid, Yeah. And so my kids came to my party, they brought presents. And Harry came with his friends, and he threw them out. And they wanted the presents back. Because my parents were not home. My parents at that day, my mother's uncle died. They were at the funeral there.
So you still had the birthday party?
Harry was in charge with his friends. Imagine Harry was 13 and a half.
I never think of Harry as a bully.
Harry was a bully. Oh, Harry was a bully with his friends, with his bully friends too. So it was terrible. It was my worst birthday I had in my life. Never made a birthday, I didn't have a birthday party again until the United States. It was
That's
terrible.
it.
But then the next year he moved.
What, he just kicked everybody out and then they all wanted the presents back?
Yeah, he came there. Yeah.
Were the parents there?
No.
Or it was just a bunch of kids?
Right, and they wanted all the presents back, and I had to give them. And I was desperate. My parents came home.
And after that you were still friendly with Harry?
Yeah. Terrible. So, anyway. So my father.
So you moved to Bucharest?
No. We moved from our humble apartment to a nice apartment. Just don't listen.
When you were?
I was 9.
When you moved to the nicer,
this is our own house.
From the humble to the apartment.
So we moved in the city. See, this was in the poor. It's like living in the across the tracks, in the
Was
poor
it
area.
was it like it was a house with like a bunch of like chickens and things around, and then there were a lot of other houses right next
The
to
same thing.
all around, and like a big
Same thing.
almost
And
like
across the street was a Maidan, which is a field, which was playing there. The children were going there to play. It was we didn't have a field. We didn't have a playground. We had a field. There, field where the horses are going there, the children are going there, and I remember that the bull. We brought a bull there for the cows to have them inseminated. We saw that, we were really enjoying that.
it's a nature channel.
Yeah, right. Anyway, go back to my father,
Okay.
Chernovitz. So my father, so he was contacted by the factory at Buhush because they want to know what's happening in Chernovitz, what is left, because they want to know if my father collects some money, they didn't get it. And I just saw the things. But they had a lot of faith in my father because what happened at that time was a very anti-Semitism was at the height because of the German and the Nazi government, the fascist government, Antonescu was in charge of Romania. So Jews.
So where did the king was in charge, or there was a government and there was a king?
The king was, I'll tell you about the king.
It was king was like the king of England, where
No,
they don't really do anything.
King. All right, let's go back.
Well,
to
you
king.
can go on and tell me the.
No, let me tell you about the king.
Okay.
The King Carol was a drunkard, a card player, a humanizer. King Carol was the son of King Ferdinand.
King Ferdinand.
Yeah, we had a King Ferdinand, we had another King Carol. What came with the King Carol, he was he lived with had a mistress, Madame Lupescu. I don't know if you've heard of it. But he was bad, but he had a son, Michael, which was worse, in the sense that he was a Nazi. So, but Karl was driven away by the Nazi regime, and Michael became king, okay, in 1940. Everything is 1940. So in 1940, something else had happened, that the Jews traveling by trains, the Jews didn't travel by car, we didn't have cars, so they didn't travel by anything, by plane or anything, but by train. Or thrown out of the train and killed. Romanian, so
Just thrown out of a moving train?
Moving train. So my father said, come to Buhush. I said, I'm not coming to get killed. He said, we'll send a bodyguard. They sent bodyguards to bring my father to Buhush. And they said, okay, you did so well for us, I want that you should still keep these accounts, and now you will depend on Galatz and others, not anymore on Chernobyl doesn't exist anymore. So Kishinev doesn't exist anymore, but Galatzi, it's a town from where Edward G. Robinson comes, and Lauren Bacall comes. Bacall means in Romanian means a grocer.
They take some of the romanticism.
Right. Anyway, but you cannot travel, so you can do it by correspondence. You can sell, and they will send the money directly to us, and you will be on commission. You'd be surprised. He did so well that was not for long, because then everything fell apart. But for a couple of years, we did very well during the war. He got for a year and a half or so. He got cool, big orders because there's nothing to be. You see, it was such a shortage of everything that everybody would buy anything. My father had everything.
Why do you have everything?
Because he had the biggest factory of textile in Romania. It's like being representative of DuPont. Okay? It's the equivalent of DuPont.
Right.
And they gave him the same district he had before. But not
So how was he was mailing people things?
Yeah, he was mailing.
And they would mail orders back to him?
Yeah, he was mailing, how they call it, samples. And they will mail orders back. And he will mail the orders to...
Did you have a telephone or anything?
No.
Or it was all by...
All by mail.
By mail, or did you have wires?
No.
You didn't even have
No.
You couldn't send a wire?
No, but we sent... I think my father used also Romanian to send them for the places.
He used Romanian?
Yeah.
What was happening with all of you at 1940 time?
Well, 1940 was, let me tell you.
But this is so you
I'll
moved.
back up to when he moved.
Yeah.
Okay. I got ahead only because to show my father's, because then my father lost everything and didn't have any more anything. So
We'll get back to that.
now get back to that. But that's 1940. 1930. That was 935, right? We moved to another place in the Strada Mavrogheni, which was in the center of the city. This was, when you speak about the side of the city, it's still only half a mile away, The city was quite small.
Right.
But we moved in Mavrogheni, which is an apartment building. We rented there. Let's see, let me tell the apartment there. We had there, but before that, let me go back again. in 19.
Oh, you moved. Okay.
But before that, I didn't say that we did get both electricity and water a
At-
couple of years before that.
At the old place.
In the old place, we got water,
The
running
first,
water.
the hovel that we were.
Yeah, but we moved right away after we got water and electricity, so did not help us very much. But now, we moved them over again. Let's see, and
So this was to the apartment in town.
in town. Well, not it was near to the high school, I remember. But it was not near to my school. In fact, it was terrible. Because I was going to Romanian school, public school. It was public school number 3, I remember, which was, it was also harassed and beaten and so forth. But that doesn't matter. But
Did Marcel really protect you?
I don't remember that.
He always claims that he.
Yeah, but maybe he did, because he's more of a bully. I was thinking, I bet he did. I think she's coming up now. Isn't she?
Who?
Shirley?
She wouldn't be coming from that direction.
Oh, she took the car. Anyway, so we,
So the year was, or you were 9 years old when you moved?
yeah. Right, right.
So the year was like 1935.
1935. Right. And there, however, we had we moved because we had a toilet, flush with a flush. For us, it's just such a thing that we flushed all the time. We just didn't, we kept flushing, breaking it, but didn't have a bathroom. We still have to have a tub. Running water, we use the water, we boil the water and have a tub.
Where was the toilet?
In the house.
Did it have its own room, or did it?
They have an own room. It's own room. It's a little, it's called water closet, It's a water closet.
Mhm.
But we have more room now. Let's see, we had a kitchen. Now we had three bedrooms, right? 3 bedrooms. So we had one again for my sister, one for 4 of us, and my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And again, salon, which nobody stayed there, right? The salon is called living room. Was nobody, nobody stayed there. Again, like in the other place, you had always everybody, but here we entertain more. They had friends, they were coming to play cards. They were playing cards, poker, and pinochle. And they played a lot of cards. And so in fact, when my Marcel got scarlet fever, I remember that, we used an apartment upstairs. They allowed us, the landlord, to use the apartment, to put Marcel there by himself. With my mother, I think. I don't know.
Scarlet fever is the same as strep throat, isn't it?
No,
Or is it different?
more. It's more than that.
Well, if you
Takes
don't,
5 weeks.
if you don't,
Takes 5 weeks.
if you don't take penicillin,
Right, but we didn't have penicillin.
then
We didn't have even sulfites. So we moved there, and so my father, because my father did a little better, right? So he moved in a nicer apartment and more central, and I was near the. Well, no, I said about the school. I was in 3rd grade. I remember that. So I was how old I was? 8 and a half or so. 9, because it was my birthday was 9. So they put me in 4th grade for 1 year. They put me in the Jewish school, the parochial school, which was terrible. It was much more demanding, much more. It was about 10 times as much demanding, and I was not prepared for that. I was doing so badly. Oh, it was one of the worst years of my life. I was doing so badly because I was so demanding. So they had Hebrew, it's all day. They had, my writing was bad. They did one day they wanted me, because I did so badly, they wanted me to put my homework on my back and go around all the class to see that. Wasn't it terrible?
That's kind of cruel.
Cruel.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my experience. That was the worst year of my life, really. Anyway, in fact, I didn't want to go to that school today. That day when I knew that happened, I didn't want to go to school. But I couldn't tell my parents that. So what I did, I took the thermometer. I said I go in the bathroom and flush about every 5 minutes. I went to flush in the bathroom. I had diarrhea. No, I didn't. And then I took the thermometer and I put it near the stove. And I had all of a sudden 104. I didn't have that, right? So you have to stay home, go to the doctor. I was so sick. I remember that, I think. Anyway, so we were in that place for about a year when my sister got sick. She got very sick. And they didn't know what she has.
What year was that?
1936 or 1937. 36, 37. She was 12. And she was 2 years older than me. She should be 1937, right? No, 2 years older. It has to be 937, I think. Maybe we were 2 years there. Anyway, she got very sick. At that time I was in high school. In fact, I went to commercial high school because they thought I'm so dumb. I couldn't do I couldn't do science high school. So they took me always for being very dumb. Maybe I do alright. But so anyway, my sister got so sick they didn't know what she had. They thought that she had a earache with the ear or something. She had fever. They put her to. She had all-time fever. She didn't feel well. She fainted many times. My father didn't go to work, in fact, at all. And my mother, and so they took care of her, 100%. And then.
How long did that?
What?
How long did that last? How long was she
Few
sick
weeks.
for?
And then they said, we'll take her to doctor. One of those doctors said, she had two doctors, your old friend and family. One lived right in the same compound with us, one of them. The one who lived in the compound took care of us. He had a telephone, in fact. And we didn't have a telephone. And they decided to take her to Bucharest, to a specialist. And she died on a train.
How long was that train trip?
Overnight.
And they just, was she getting worse?
Oh yeah.
She was getting worse, and so they decided that they had to take her right away.
Right.
And as soon as they...
But they took also a doctor with them. With a doctor. She traveled with a doctor. So...
It was your parents and the doctor and her?
Mm-hmm. And they didn't report the fact that she died on the train. They took her to, like she was dead, but they thought that she was asleep or something. They took her to my uncle's house.
In Bucharest.
And then they shipped the coffin home. So that was a very bad experience, really. And but she had uremia.
Like an infection in the
of the
kidneys.
kidney.
Blood. Yeah.
They couldn't.
How did they figure? Did they figure that out in the end, or?
Yeah, that's what they figured out. But that means that's hypothesis again.
Did anybody have when did they start with like
Sulfat started just about a year later because I got very sick with erysipelas. Just the year after, I think, or the year after. And my nose got like this. Really, like, they say that erysipelas, they were probably right. Uh-oh.
That's okay. Go on.
So it's very infectious stuff. My grandfather, from my mother's side, died from that. He had erysipelas, he died. So I had it now. So they gave me sulfur, which was, the doctor says, an experimental. But otherwise, infection can get blood infected, completely infected. And I survived. Obviously, I'm here.
So in 1938 was that?
Right. But also 1938 he moved out. My mother said that's a curse in the house.
How aware of the outside world of like the rest of Europe and like and.
Well, 1938 was in Munich. But 1938, before 1938, we moved out. We moved out in 1937. Just about a few months after that, my sister died. Immediately after my sister died, we moved out. And I'll tell you about that. We moved out, and because at that time still the world was all right. It was Hitler was there, but not was 1938 was not yet.
There was no war, but Hitler was starting to make his.
Oh, bit out of trouble, right? But you see, the point is that Hitler made trouble, but he was such a defense against the Soviets that communism. So nobody tried to stop him. Anyway, because they could have stopped him in the beginning. He had no power, but they. So anyway, so we decided to move out. We moved out in an apartment where we had a shower now. That's the new apartment. No, that's apartment with a shower. Right, we moved and where we moved now. Oh, we moved there, right, 4 times. We moved to this place which had a very large room, was an old coffee house, an apartment, and over on top of a tea house, right in the center, the Carre Nazionale, in the National Street.
In which
Main Street. Main Street.
What town is this?
The same, Botoshan. All Botoshan. We moved 4 times. We moved 4 times Botoshan. So we moved there in an apartment. We had some room. We had a big, my parents made a bedroom, but the room, and that room was bigger than this apartment. Big, much bigger.
The major room?
Major room, right. So, of course, we divided it with some drapes or something. In fact, that year, my uncle, Joe, my father's brother, he was the most tied with this. They were together. My Joe and my father.
Right.
They didn't see each other from 1910, 1911 till 1938. How many? 27 years. And they decided. What happened is, he was in World War I. In France, he fought against the Germans in that World War I. So 1938, to celebrate the armistice, 1918, 38, 20 years, they, for the veterans, they instituted a program that they should go, who wants to go to Europe, back to Paris, to France, to the world front. And my uncle said, I'll go. He took his wife. And my uncle Joe, we used to be called Zayde in Romania, because Joe in America, Joe Herman. We are mostly connected with him when he came here too. When he came here, They were very, very nice. They came to visit us then from Paris. They took a train all the way to Bucharest, to Romania, Botoșani too, from Bucharest to Botoșani. That's a long trip to go from Paris to see us, but like a week. In fact, we sold that time the house that we had, and we gave money for it said belongs to everybody in the family. There were 9 children, so my father gave to them. See, everybody told us my Uncle Joe would come and bring us money, but see, we gave money to America rather than America to us. So.
So he was in America?
Pittsburgh.
He was in America, and then they made the armistice they made the thing that he could go to visit Paris, and when he went to visit Paris,
he said, "I'll take a train and go."
And he took a train and visited.
I didn't see him. He was the only brother who's here. The 8 brothers, the other ones, they're all 8 or in America. Only my father remained here. And they're all 8. So that I understand about the house. Maybe that's what Harry knows more about that. I don't know what's happening in that. It's we don't want to give a misfact. We don't know exactly. So we stayed there for a while, but there's not very. We didn't have a shower then. I'm sorry, that's not yet. We had a bathtub. We had a bathtub, but without water. We had to buy the water.
It was like having a tub that you.
Yeah, tub, but we had the running water. So the kitchen was all the way. It was a big terrace, and the kitchen was about 200 feet away. With the kitchen, and there was the bathtub too. And the rooms was not really set for an apartment like this, but it was good for us for a while. It was in the center of the city.
Was it? Was it an apartment?
Yeah, a rent apartment. So and they stayed for about a year, for about a year, right? And then we moved to another place, and I don't know why we moved again. Maybe it was not room enough because they had, when my Uncle Joe came in order to stay with us, they didn't stay in a hotel, stay with us. Put another drape there, maybe another room there, but it was not really appropriate all this. But I don't know why we moved there. We moved again to a place, also in Carlo Nazionale, further, right near the firehouse. I remember that. And
do you remember the colors or smells or anything of these?
Color, what means color, smell? Colors. Well, it was all brick houses, you see, so.
The walls were like.
No, they were painting the house. You see, that's not like it was more European in the sense that they were painting house. They were painting, in fact, fences. Fence were painted. See, the other house. See, this house didn't have any yard, didn't have anything. This apartment where we were.
Was it like an apartment, like on the second floor or first floor?
Yeah, on the second floor. And when Joe visited us. It was the first apartment we moved there from when we moved out from when my sister died. So because we moved there, we moved out only because my mother said the house is cursed, everybody will die. So that I heard that before. So and after I became later. But so we moved. Downstairs where we lived there was a tea house. That means people, I'll tell you about smells, 2 smells. People were drinking tea all day. They didn't have work. Most of them were poor. Tea was cheap, the gallon of tea, and they were peeing all the time. The house was the entire thing was smelling urine, all the yard. So they were they didn't drink coffee, it's expensive. They didn't drink wine, it was expensive. They didn't drink anything else, no beer, just tea, the tea house. And also down the yard there was, which we looked out on the balcony, and they had a yard. So we didn't have a yard there. It's a yard which is working. Either the tea cows was in the yard, or other. Was a guy who made ice cream. He made a natural ice cream. Right there, he made it in a on a carry-on to go sell it. But we were watching that, and I remember the smells of the lemon and chocolate. You see, that's they speak about smells. They were very nice. So we always tried to buy from him because we saw how he made it. We were just watching him every day. He make it right there in the yard. Then I don't remember we had any rats.
Where was the place that you did have all the rats in?
They're coming down there, coming to the place.
Oh.
And also, there were many rats where my friend Puyo lived in Canada. Anyway, there, I don't remember there was any rats. No, just maybe they were, but I don't remember them at all. Just remember that we had there was we lived very little there because we moved in a nicer apartment, in about half a mile away in the same street, but not in the center, off center. So that street, the center is about 6 blocks, and we moved from there about 10 blocks away, but in the same street.
Mm-hmm.
And there was we had a yard, again we had,
Well, this is is this a place that had the huge room?
No, that's
so you moved
after the huge room.
So you moved again.
Yeah, but I'm trying to tell you that I forgot to tell you that in the first place where we owned, which my grandfather owned.
You mean the one that had the water running under it?
Right, that we had an acre of land which we used to use it for fruit and vegetable. We had trees, we had vegetables, we used to have potatoes and tomatoes and everything there for our own. I mean, so it's like a farm.
How much of the year could you use it?
About 6 months. But point is that we put them all in the cellar, And we made home, there already, we made home something like this. We made povidla. Povidlas is a prune preserve. We bought, let's say, we didn't have enough of our trees, but I don't know if we have enough trees. But we bought about, let's say, 50 pounds. We made. Somebody was staying, mixing there till midnight in a fire. There was a big kettle and fire, and the fire underneath. We made apricot preserve. Then we made a lot of tomato paste. Also, you have to boil. See, you have to boil a lot because in order to preserve it, and you have to close it in jars. Then we used to buy cheese, feta cheese, usually feta or see, there are 2 cheeses only, white and yellow, like in Turkey. Pini and Beyaz. It was feta, really, feta, and that other one is called kash, which is cacio, which means supposedly is made from horse milk, but it's not.
This caciocavallo, that's a Italian
but
term.
we call it cash. Anyway, and we used to make about 1 gallon jars of this cheese. These are the cheese, the famous cheese which we fed Mirel.
Yeah.
We had big jars, which we did not put in the cellar, but we put it in the in a room which was not heated for the winter.
So, hold on a second. I'm gonna have to change.
Yeah, all right. So change now. I'll change my. I need something now too. I'm tired too talking.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
Do you want me to get you something?
Yeah, but I need a food too. I need something. I didn't have anything for lunch, and I have only liquid.
Liquid lunch?
We should call Francine, see if she knows how to answer right after the telephone, but I bet she doesn't know how to answer.
Mom?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do more wine. But then I can go. Good. Okay, let's change that.
So you were just getting to 1938?
1938, that was when I was 12, right? 1938, we moved again. They said I moved, we were on top of that tea house.
Right.
Now I thought I moved further away on the same street, on Main Street, it's called Main Street. Strada Mare. Strada Mare in Romanian means Main Street. It was called, the name was Cale Națională, National Road.
So your sister died in above the tea house, or?
No. She died in the other house.
The house before that.
Before that, my mother said that the house was cursed.
And then you moved to the tea house.
Yeah.
And then you moved. Okay.
So we moved to the tea house. I said tea house. So my uncle was there. My uncle stayed, left. So we found a better place. Somebody had a place and the first time a shower, a bathroom, entire bathroom, with a toilet, shower, complete bathroom, larger than this one, like twice as much, like our bathroom at home. And two kitchens. One kitchen and one kitchen for the servants. We didn't have any servants, but one kitchen for the servants. And let's see, we had, again, 3 rooms. Now let's see, why do you have only 3 rooms? Oh, Marcel went to Bucharest. My uncle and aunt liked Marcel. And he went to school there. They sent him to private school.
And your mom couldn't handle him?
No, she could handle, Mom couldn't handle him, right, but yeah, that couldn't handle both of them, see, Marcel and Mirel, together were really like worse than Matthew and
Eric and Matthew.
Eric and Matthew, much worse. But they were different in age, about 3 years. Anyway, so Marcel went to Bucharest. And so we were only 3 boys, right? And no sister. So we had there 3 rooms again, 2 bedrooms, and 1 living room, 1 salon again, and 1 hallway. And a hallway right to the kitchen. The idea is that, again, we use the salon only for keeping, for the
Guests?
guests. So we were there, and by the way, that is a big cellar. These are 2 big rats out there.
That was the big rat.
And also we had there in end of 1938, they made us make big holes, a zigzag in case we had bombs to go in the hole. Defense.
Zigzagged holes.
Trenches in the yard. Everybody had to build a trench in the yard against the war. We expected war. And
So this was an actual house, or was this a
house?
This is a house.
This is a house. All of the house. I don't see apartment houses. Oh, they're not apartment houses. They're all houses.
Well, when you were above the tea house.
It was also a house. It was an old apartment was because it was probably there was before a card playing something or a dance floor or something. But it was not an apartment house.
It wasn't an apartment house, but it was a house that was split up.
Right, just downstairs there were stores like the tea house. And also, I think there was another apartment beside us there. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember. Hardly knows. I don't know. And but so also we were neighbors. Someone I made a friend. There were two boys who were adopted by their uncle because their parents died. Well, became very good friends named Butsu. And you know, friends like. We stayed there, and okay, the war didn't start yet. It was 938, came to 939. 938 was.
Well, what was happening as far as like you going to school, you and the.
I
you
was
going to
still at school, at school. I was 938. I was in the third year of. Or second year of high school. See, high school starts at, I told you, 5th grade.
Right.
It's not high school. It's called the, well, you can call it if you have the, how do you call it, lower high, how do you call it?
Middle school.
Middle school. But it was still one. The school was going from 5th grade to 12th grade. One school. And I was not doing very well. I was have to repeat by, summer by at least 2 or 3 courses. If you have more than 3 courses, you have to repeat the entire thing. I never had that, luckily. I was always scared that would happen. But it didn't happen, and I did always very well in the repeating in summer. I don't know why in the summer I did so well. And during the year, I did well. Most of them, not everything. And things which I like history, geography, science, social sciences, I did very well. And physics, chemistry, biology, I didn't do very well. Of course, I was a chemical engineer because I did so badly in science, right? But that was my parents, my father decided.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I did. So that's
tell me about the basement.
The basement was a cellar, a big cellar, a huge cellar, the entire house. So we used to buy food there. We used to buy for the winter potatoes and carrots and onions and all things which stay for the winter. And temperature like about 30 degrees. The cellar was not so cold as outside. The outside got like in Boston at 0 degrees. The cellar was never going below 32 because I don't know why. It keeps warmer than the cellar. I don't know why.
Yeah, there's a certain depth that if you dig down to it, then it doesn't. You go below the frost line.
Right.
And you can't. It won't really change the temperature.
Because, we always use a cellar there in Romania to keep things. Because in wintertime we cannot buy anything. You could buy a potato or a carrot, right? So tomatoes we didn't have, of course. Things for salad in winter didn't exist. So, things are moving on. Let me see. I want to say something about. I forgot. But here was still the same distance to go to school. It was not bad. It's about a mile. And the winter was not very pleasant. Here I became very religious. And it became a 939, 1940. The synagogue attendant used to come in the morning to get me to come to synagogue because they didn't have a minyan. You know what a minyan is? You have to have 10 people to be able to have a prayer. So I was helping her. So I had to be in school at 8. At 6 o'clock I had to go to Minion, that was after 30, that's after 1939, right? That's late 39, but yes, people moved 1938. And in fact, it was terrible.
Wasn't the war gearing up in 1939?
39, not us, because the war started in 1939, right? I remember I was with my Uncle Aaron. You know who Uncle Aaron is? Dica Erna's father. You know, Dica Erna Jonas Shell, the 4 boys. We are very close to this family, they are my mother's brother. There are 2 brothers there, Aaron and Lori's father. I'll tell you about
I only know Leon.
No, it's Aaron and by oh. Anyway, this Aaron never made a living by himself. Aaron was a loser from year 0 till he died. He died in Argentina. I share the story. Aaron opened all the time like coffee houses. And he played cards too. But the coffee house, they were having playing cards upstairs. See, he had coffee house down, and he had the apartment. He lived upstairs, and he got some commission. So people would like to play for money. See, he was not allowed to play for money, so he couldn't do that in the store, the coffee house, but he could do that upstairs. And that was illegal, of course. But the people, if it was a come, they probably paid bribes to the inspectors anyway. So, but he never made a living. My father and Lonnie's father, you know Lonnie. Chicana, Lonnie.
No, I've heard of Lonnie. And the person that you're talking about now is the father of Erna down in Argentina?
Yeah, right. And so they used to help him a lot, but every time he got broke, he closed the coffee shop and get again. And of course, I'll tell you later about that he didn't have anything. Anyway, in the meantime, the war started in 1939. I remember I was in the coffee house. I was there with my uncle. I was 30 years old. And September 1st, 1939, here I hear about that Germany invaded Poland.
He had a radio going?
Yeah, he had a radio. We all had radio.
You had a radio in the house too?
We bought a radio just now. We had it for not there. We had it for a year. They confiscated after that because all Jews didn't have allowed radios. But we just bought it because we always bothered my father. We want a radio. He said, "We want a radio." And we wanted a bicycle too, but he didn't give us a bicycle. He didn't buy a bicycle. We wanted so bad a bicycle, but they would confiscate. They would confiscate anyway. Everything in 1940 they confiscated. So we used the radio that the war started, and the things got with us didn't have anything. In the meantime, England and France declared also to the Germans, right? Because they gave them ultimatum to. In the meantime, the Russians came to take half Poland. See, Russia have a pact, I told you yesterday about the Ribbentrop Pact, the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact that they would do, if they invade Poland, they would give half Poland back to Russia, because Russia had it before World War I. So in the meantime, the frontier was opened from Russia, Poland to Romania, and a lot of refugees are coming down. And we had a fact with us, the refugee was a banker from Warsaw. Everybody put up, we had 22 rooms, but we put a salon now available for the refugees. And they moved, the refugee, this guy, I remember the name, but I remember the names. And this refugee, this bankers, went to Bucharest to make friends with my uncle, and he became a big banker in Bucharest for a while, till again.
Till everything fell apart.
Right. But only, there are 3.5 million Jews in Germany, in Poland. But what about a trickle came down, like, say, few thousands.
How often did you see the uncle in Bucharest is the one that Marcel was with?
Yeah.
And how often did you see Marcel?
Oh, Marcel, just a moment. Marcel was there only till 1940, so let me tell you what happened there. But we saw, we were my mother was quite close with her sister. And my uncle was coming, he was coming always by car. It was the third car in Brothershine, 2 cars to one, my uncle. And he always came by car, he never came by train. I don't know how he did it, because the roads in Romania were not macadam, they were terrible. I don't know how he did it. But he was crazy. He was going to Vienna. He had a...
That's why he got along with Marcel.
Right. But he had a factory of ceramic and faience, for the bathrooms. What do you call them?
Tile?
Tile. And he did very well. He had mining interest in Austria. He was going to Vienna all the time. He also had he liked to play cards. He liked to play cards. He was a womanizer. He loved my aunt because he married my aunt because she was such a beauty. She was one of the beauty of the town at that time. He was after her to marry her. She was about 18 when he got married. But then, right away, after years, he started fooling around. And my aunt was telling my mother, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go away, but she never did. She got too good. They had a beautiful apartment house, a condominium in Bucharest. In fact, when I was 12, right, I should intercalate it, I was the one who was sent everyone was sent for the summer to my aunt, because my mother couldn't take care of us when we went to school. That was terrible when we went to school, right? We were around, and so Marcel was there, but Marcel came after 1938, because I went there in the summer of 1938. I stayed there for summer. She took me to a Slanik. Slanik, Moldova is a place of hot springs. That's huge. I love that place. It's a gorgeous place. We had to drink every day to drink that water, which is sulfur water. And hot spring, it's beautiful. But I was miserable. I didn't like my aunt, and I didn't like to be with her. And
Why? What was?
But she was disciplinary, and she didn't know how to handle. My mom was with the children sometimes, but she didn't know how to handle. What I was just snappish. It's not a go-go. I would like to be home. I don't go places. So anyway, that summer of 1938, I went there, and but the trip there was very interesting. I was 12, right, and my father got me a ticket, half price, third class, or second class, I remember that, to go up to, where was that, up to what city, and I had to change 3 times and then take a bus, because that was connected by train, only by bus. So my father went to me to the first change, and then asked a salesman Another salesman, a friend of his, says, "You are here, but you see that my son is 12, that he can, the big valise, that he should go on the train to go to wherever, I don't know about the city, Romania or something. And you know, Târgu, something like that. And the train came there, and the guy wasn't there. I was waiting in the bar, the restaurant the bar there of the station. And I then took myself and went on the train. And the guy looked for me then after that, but he said, "You would have had time." I said, "Yeah, but I was nervous. I want to make the train. It was the only train of the day." He said, "Oh, the trains. I would have stayed there. I didn't have any money." So anyway, I made that, and then I came to that city, I think Târgu, to take the bus. And I didn't know what bus I should take. But I find out somebody that I took a bus to Slanik, and now in Slanik there are a few stops. You know, they come to the town, it's like a tourist place like that. It's long, it's a long way, so they stop. So I decided to go to the last stop, Castellasera, because I didn't know. My aunt was there, wait for me. I didn't have a good time. I didn't have a good time with my cousin. She had a daughter. She was the one child I had, Esterica. I don't heard of that. Esterica was the oldest of everybody because my aunt got married so early than everybody. She was the same age with Jerry.
The aunt?
My cousin,
Oh, your
Esterica,
cousin.
was a cousin of Jerry. And they were about the same age. So they were much older than us.
Right.
So they were born in 917, 916, before the war. Before World War I. Anyway, she just died a few years ago. And Esterica was such a pain when I was there in Bucharest. She was kibitzing me, she was punching me, she was doing anything. And she thought she's funny. Anyway, I didn't appreciate her at all. Anyway, Esterica had a problem too. Eventually, Esterica, to tell you the story, Esterica had married she was married that time with a guy named Levy, a banker. A young man, but she discovered that in a few years that he was fooling around with another woman. In fact, he said he's going to some business. She found out he's in one of his resorts, Târgu. She took a train and she went there and she found him. They got divorced. And then eventually she married somebody else, a little man. I never met him because it's up to the war. Marcel met him. Marcel used to go every time he went to Romania. Of course, he visited them, he brought the money.
Well, they stayed in Romania through the war and after.
Yeah, right. And, my aunt Etty came once to United States, I think that was when I was in Turkey. I was not born because I didn't see her. My experience in Bucharest and Slanik was not very. I did enjoy it too.
Did you? Well, first, tell me about the refugees again. You had so that was 1938, and then
1939 we had refugees. That's
1939 you had refugees coming.
After September 1st, we had refugees coming from. That was the first thing we had. So things are getting very uptight because we are supplying food to Germans, and for instance, at the end of 1939 we had to ration things like bread, sugar, oil. We do sunflower oil. There's a factory of sunflower oil owned by father of the best friend of Harry. Just they are very well off too. It's that boy who helped us to give the lavender cheese. Not lavender, I mean. Yeah, they say that.
You think that's funny.
Right, not funny, it's terrible. Anyway, and by 1939, again, I remember one thing. We had to buy by the black market a lot of things. Like for instance, I would go to speak with him and with the mine manager or owner of the oil factory, and tell him that to come there. So I'll go there and put in my pockets. I have big pockets. Put 2 bottles of oil and close myself because it was allowed. It was all illegal. But one of the worst things I remember, when bread we used to buy, stay in line and get bread mixed with corn and potatoes. It was so second day bread, never first day bread, because not to eat too much. So, but it was a big line, and even a bread per family. It was so heavy, the bread, because it was not grain, And I think the things coming. And but one day, we're gonna stop. You coming?
Yeah, let's pause it.
Okay, pause.
The red light on?
Yep. Remember I said that that was we bought things at Black Market. I remember one day saying that I had to go and get a bag of 25 kilos, that's 50 pounds, 52 pounds, of 55 pounds, right, of sugar. I was 13 years old, and
Did you already have your pants unzipped as you walked past the camera? Just trying to make this pornographic. So you're 55 pounds.
And I had to carry it home for about a mile. 50 pounds of sugar. I was 13 years old. That was not very easy, but I did. And I remember how. I don't remember how. Yeah. Things like that, you have to carry all those things. Anyway, so the war started, and they, for a while, we didn't have any changes, drastic changes against Jews. The things came to bad in beginning in June 1940. Now let's see the sequence of events. The war started September 1st, 1939. In March 1940, Germany invaded I don't know exactly the dates. Yeah, invaded
Poland?
No, Poland. Poland took 3 weeks to but they invaded now Norway, Denmark, and beside they also occupied Belgium and Holland and France, but by June 1940, France was finished. Right? So it didn't take very long for Germany to break the French line. In fact, Hitler decided to make the armistice on the same rail car they made the armistice in 1918, because to show that Compiègne they made a peace, rather than armistice, made a peace with France. And so now things got worse because now they invaded Germany and Italy. Italy declared war to the France in order to get back, they sent back, to get Corsica and Nice, the Côte d'Azur, all the Italian before 1860. What happened in 1860, that was part of Savoy, it was part of Piedmont. Piedmont is Torino, right? That was the main state in the Italian states. You know Piedmont is?
They're talking.
Stop a minute. Pause.
I can hear you. Bagels are so chewy.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, tell me about.
No, I'm telling the entire configuration. Well, what do you want me to tell you?
Well, tell me. I want to hear more about you in the entire configuration.
Yeah, me is the idea is that when the Russia now, Italy in Romania in 1940. Wasn't that they attacked Russia in 1941, right? Not 1940. I'm almost mixed up with that. And, but in 1940, fall of 1940, Romania was taken over by, they got rid of a king, took about King Carol. They abdicated in favor of his son Michael. And they put a right-wing, a fascist government, Antonescu. So now we got more trouble, right? First of all, they confiscate our radios, and eventually they threw us out of school. Eventually they threw out of school, in fact. And but what happened also is that now we had now when the war started against Russia started, we had to put up Italians, soldiers. So you have to see the Italians. They are coming. Italian. They had Panzer tanks. The Germans, big. Italian came with the little tanks, dressed like for going to Sicily, and they were very happy. And they died all in Russia because they died of hypothermia if they were not killed by the Germans. They were not killed by the Russians. But we have to put them up. But in the meantime, what happened now...
Was this in the meantime, the...
Well, 1441, I don't know exactly the date. I don't remember that. Is the... Also we had a revolution of the...
What do you mean by you had to put them up, the Italian soldiers?
It means the public orders they were staying there. They didn't have place to stay there.
So did they stay in your house?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Italian soldiers in your house?
Yeah. They were all right.
Do you remember their names or what they were like or anything special about?
That's 50, 60 years ago. But I say that but something else happened now, even more. One thing is that winter was Barcelos and Bucharest now. And in that winter was a revolution of the extreme right, the Nazi party in Romania. It was a small Nazi party, the name was Codreanu. It was Garda de Fer, was called, Iron Guard, which was friends with Hitler. And it's very funny that the regular government, also right-wing government, the fascist government, put them down and succeeded in descent. And they ran all the way to Germany. They ran as leaders of the right wing, but even the Germans didn't do anything about it because they thought that this would be a more stable government to help them in the future. In truth is that they helped them. First thing they did, they thought that all Jews who live in small towns, I mean, shtetl, cannot stay there. They have to move out. So we rent the place for a Jewish family which lived in a small town. Now they said, listen, we don't have where to live. We have to move out. We said, we are not moving out because you rent to us. I have a contract. They said that we don't have where to stay. So they came and lived with us. So we had two families in a place which would take hardly one family for a while only, just for a little while. As soon as the war against Russia started, right, at that time, they also, every Romanian could have a claim to a place which owned by the Jews. See, if Romanians come and say, listen, I like this place, I like it to rent to me, you have to rent to him, regardless who's there.
So this was all edicts under
1941.
edicts from the fascist
Right.
Romanian government,
Right,
who was just kind of like cohorts with the
right. 1941.
Nazis.
So we had to move out,
Both families.
both families. But we found, my father was very entrepreneur, very enterprising. He found a Romanian who owned an apartment in top of how do you call that, salami factory. It's sale, you know, very great. Salami, you know, all kinds of how do you call it?
Sausages and
Sausages. He found a place which was beautiful. Now we had 3 bedrooms, a living room, a shower room, a bathroom, shower, toilet separate, a big kitchen. And in Romania, nobody could put us out. And it was owned by a Romanian. So when you're owned by a Romanian, nobody can put you out. No Romanian can come to Romania and say, put out you because I want to move in. No. So we moved in there. And we were happy ever after. In a sense, we stayed there till the end of the war. And, but that was the best place we had, really. That was not far from the place we lived first, but it was in a very busy area. In fact, was in a area which, like a business section. It's a small town, that's a big business section.
So this was a house,
No,
or
apartment.
this was an actual apartment,
No, one apartment.
or like just a little, like, was the building a big
Building was our apartment and down our stores.
but it was a big building, like a big brick
Right,
building?
all brick, everybody's brick. Brick, even our house, the initial house was brick, everything. We didn't have wood houses.
How are the roaches and rats and
No roaches, but rats, I don't know how people eat that cheese they had. They have a full cellar of cheese. And to enter the hallway, I had to make so much noise that rats would not be there. just to come home, to go away, every time we were to get to the stairway, or always full of rats. It was so terrible.
Is that where the rats killed the cat?
No, the cat, rats killed the cat, and the other one which we put out by the Romanian
In the basement.
basement. But this one, we didn't use the basement at all. We couldn't. It was mostly rats and cheese. Terrible. But what do we do there that we couldn't use the basement? I think we had a balcony we put outside the balcony in the winter. Did we have any ice box? Huh. I don't know how we did it.
Could you smell all the salami?
Oh yeah. There was another store at front that does it. Romanian salami, you know, they gorge themselves in pork. And
It's not a very kosher building.
not a very kosher building, but a very safe building for us.
Yeah.
More than that, when they started collecting, people for camp or something, but they wouldn't come to us. It was a main building. We were really safe in many ways. But still, when they started, when we heard, we could see on the main plaza also that the remainder of the Germans had collected people. We would go, only my mother would stay, and we three boys with my father would go in the attic, take the stair up with us, and stay there for a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not pleasant, really, no.
See, this is 1941.
That was 1942. Really.
1942.
But 1942 is getting worse. Every time it's getting worse.
So
Anyway, in the
16.
meantime.
Is Harry 20? You're 16 and Harry's 20?
I was 41, I was 15.
You're 15 and Harry's like 19.
19. But Harry was taken to the labor camp, and I was
In 1941?
1942. 1942. He was taken labor camp. He built. He was a very big firm of construction. Bechtel was called Tot, a German firm. You know Bechtel, this one constructed. Bechtel is one which constructed a big dig in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
For $14 billion. That was Tot, which was going with the German army on the highway because the Germans could not advance because there were no roads. Get it? So they constructed roads, but by the time they finished the roads, the Russians could come faster after them. So it was a mistake really to make the roads. But Harry was a very good worker, that's bad. He respected the rules, he finished because what he'd have to do for the day. He was a worker. I was not taken. So it was only I, my Marcel, and my father. And I was taken for snow clearing winter. It was to keep us out of school. See, they wanted not to be able to go to school, so they said, we'll do something. We'll make them clean snow. And, clean snow for 10, 12 hours a day was not very pleasant at 15 years of age, 16 years of age. It was not pleasant for any time. It was cold, and we were not dressed properly, it was wet, we always get sick. Anyway, so let me tell you about, go back to Marcel. Marcel was my school, I said in Bucharest.
Right.
Now, when was that revolution, that Nazi revolution, uprising?
Oh, right.
My parents really thought about that they should, Marcel maybe, it was in Bucharest, the uprising was only in Bucharest. They were very corrupt, they really killed Jews, they hang up Jews in the abattoir, in the kind of a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
They really they were so rough, crazy. So I didn't understand that, and I told, see, this guy in 1940, when that happened, but this guy was still doing this. See, we didn't have special mail, but we had courier, that somebody was traveling by night, all to Bucharest, coming next night from Bucharest, 6 nights a week. That was a second cousin. He was married, this guy was married to the cousin of my father, a Vitnik. And I went to this house, I went to Marcel, we went there and told him, that was about a few blocks away, I told him that I tried to be funny, and I said, are you to bring Marcel home, baby. So he went to Bucharest and told my aunt, your sister wants him home. So he took him home.
Home.
From Bucharest.
You said.
I don't know what I said. I said something wrong, probably. Or maybe it's not me, probably. It's a misunderstanding. But he brought him home.
So
but he should have checked with my mother, right?
Your mom thought that you were bringing a message that he needed to be brought home.
Well, I said that he's not happy about it, but I didn't say anything. But maybe I did. I don't know what I did. But he brought him home, and he was not in school because the war was on. He was better off in Bucharest, but maybe not. Because in Bucharest there were so many uprisings against Jews, they killed so many more Jews in Bucharest than in our town. So maybe he was better off here. So we don't know. In the long run, we don't know what happened. But what happened now that I told her, they put us out of school in 1940, and I finished that time my first 4 years, right? I was in 5th grade of high school, right? At 15 years of age, 1941, right? Right.
15.
Yeah, I was there. So see, you have to pass an exam after every 4 years. You have to pass an exam, entrance exam, to get in the junior high. When you finish junior high, you have to pass another entrance exam to get upper high. Then you have to pass the baccalaureate to get to college. It means all exams, compressed exam. So I got my exam, passed in Romanian school, and they put us out. So I went there back, and I went to see the principal, who was a big Nazi to begin with. And I said, I want a certificate that I should be able to go to school, Jewish school. He said, I don't know who you are. Hang yourself. Then I remember the word that he said, hang yourself. So I went to Jewish school, and I told them what they said. And they said, it's okay. You don't need an exam. We'll accept you anyway.
So was the Jewish school okayed by?
It was not okay by anybody. The Jewish school was some self-made with no people who was really a PhD or a professor. It was a school which we had lawyers, accountants who didn't have a job, and they became teachers. Teachers in math and philosophy. And a lawyer, for instance, was the director of the school. First of all, we had it in a building, an old building. I think was a Jewish center, just far away. And then they took us out from us. We moved to another building, and they took that away from us. So we moved in synagogues. There's a series of synagogues in the area, about 12 synagogues, and we moved to synagogues. And that was that till the end of the war. They didn't let us have an orderly school. They didn't feel like we should have a school altogether.
So you had, that started in 1941, and it continued through till 1944.
Yeah, because we were liberated on April 7, 1944, a year before the war finished.
Harry was taken in 1942.
42, I think. 42? I think so. 40, 42, right. Or 41, I don't know. I don't remember now exactly. Ask Harry.
And then Harry came back in 19...
Harry ran away with other people in time when the Germans were retreating. See, what happened, I have to tell you the thing, even you won't know only about me, but to tell the background is important. In 1943, 43, Germans started with the war, when they lost Stalingrad. Stalingrad was the end of the war. 1943, the army, General Powell's army, entire army, which is about 200,000 people, had to surrender to the Russians. And that was the first time, because the war was going very well for them until 1943. They were at the gates of Moscow, the gates of St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg they bombed for 2 years. But when Stalingrad occurred, that was the end, 1943. So they started retreating. So they retreated slowly first to Orel. Orel is a city in Ukraine. And from there on, 1,000 miles to our house, they just did, the Germans completely were done. And by April 1944, they were in Potoshan. So, but Harry ran away, luckily. And we stayed, we had really the summer with our friends. We had friends, we had a store in the town called Adler. They had also tragedy.
So then you had to leave the place above the salami factory?
Yes, we moved to Adler. We were very good friends at Adler, so we moved to stay with them.
Mm-hmm.
It was very nice of them to put us up. And we stayed with them for for a month at least. At the time when we had no man's land. The Germans left, we didn't see one day. We got up and there were no Germans in town.
So the Germans flooded in?
No Romanian either. All the Romanians were afraid. They were told by the Germans that the Russians would come and take their head off, each one. So all the Romanians left. And so it's a Jewish town. But they didn't have time to do any harm, really. So they ran, because they were ran so fast. So in fact we slept, we had different places, it was so awful. And
so you slept in the basement of their store?
Yeah,
when you were
basement, we slept all over. And then we slept in another store, in the store, with my father really had had part of it, because it was a Romanian, and the name of Romanian, but my uncle, Ronnie's father, and my father had an interest in that. So we had a key there, so we slept on the counters. Oh, it's terrible, just terrible. And we were locked inside, that, because they wouldn't know that anybody sleeps there. So anyway, the Germans came, the German went, so Harry came home, and that was 1944 already, but I went too fast from 1942 to 1944. And because I didn't stay over there, I tell you very much about the war period, because I don't remember very much about the war period, but maybe I don't want to remember, right?
Right.
So,
so tell me about the war period.
About the war period, it's...
Do you remember any incidents, any specific things that you remember, even like smells, bombings?
Well, bombings, we didn't have bombings till 1944. But we had, we always fear, we always lived in fear.
It was just fear and
because we didn't know what happened next. We knew that something was happening in Poland. We didn't know exactly what's happening. Because, you see, we listened to BBC. No, we didn't. But some people have BBC in their cellars. we didn't have allowed radio. If you had found the radio, you are condemned for life. So we couldn't have a radio, but people had radios, clandestine, released to BBC, of course. And even BBC was not very honest, didn't say anything about concentration camp, about the death camps.
Did they know about them by?
Yeah, of course they knew about it. They didn't say anything about Auschwitz, about Buchenwald, about anything. They didn't.
But they didn't know about those until 1944 when they fell.
No, they knew that. Listen, they were
They had an idea about
the
it.
Americans, the American Jewish Council asked the government to bomb, and they asked Churchill to bomb these camps. And they say, listen, I have to win a war, I can't worry about the Jews. The Allies said, all right? So, but we didn't know very much about it. We had idea, because a lot of people were sent from Romania, were sent to Transnistria, which is now Dniester, which is now Moldavia, changed names. But in fact, at that time, some more refugees came from, which were taken to Bessarabia, to Russia, came back to Botoshan, and we took in 2 girls, in fact. I remember Luba and Rachel.
You took in. How old are these girls?
She was one was about 20, one about 18.
What year was this?
They were orphans. That's 1944.
In 1944.
1943. World War. With the
deserting
with the Germans, they came
when
also.
the Germans disappeared, the refugees showed up.
Showed up, right? They came from there, and in fact, one of the girls married one of my best friends, Aronel. They married because they were going around, and they so finally my father, parents decided they should get married. He really was a very strong communist, so didn't want to get married to religious, but my father made him get married in a very orthodox way by the chief rabbi of Botoshan. So was that he hated that. But then he went to Israel. He became a very anti-communist. All these guys who they changed a lot. People changed so much from when I knew after how they became so different.
Okay.
All right?
I have only 5 minutes.
Okay.
But so 1944, the war ends, and what happens with it's starting to end.
But it doesn't start to end. It starts to end very fast. When it starts to end, ends very fast. Starts to end about March, and ended on April 7th. We had 3 weeks or so, or more, of no man's land, which was very difficult. We didn't know where the Germans were. It's like being surrounded, not being surrounded. Because war.
You don't know who's going to be coming into town or who's.
No, because we don't know who is who. And we made we didn't have any. We didn't have any weapons. Nobody had a weapon in the town. So.
You need to. So nobody had a weapon in town, and then you had 1944. You had like the Germans out on the outskirts of town somewhere, and you had the Russians out somewhere.
Yes, we didn't know where they are.
And it was essentially that you were waiting to see who would end up showing up in town, if it would be
Right,
Germans or if it would be Russians.
We hid ourselves. We were all hiding. We did not going on. And
then what ultimately happened in April?
April 7th, 1944, the Russian came with horse and buggies. Really, Then they've come the trucks, the American trucks, Dodge. I remember the Soto and Dodge trucks came after that, and tanks, and a lot of the jet planes, American jet planes. Everything was American. The Russians didn't have anything of theirs. And they...
How were they received in the town?
Very well. Oh, the Jewish, they with salt and, they salt and so forth, and big festivities. Big festivities, but then we had a big Seder. That was the first night of Seder. In my others house. We stayed there. And all of a sudden, they started bombing. The Germans now knew that Russia and town. The commander, they put the commanding about 1 block away from where we were. The commanding general, Konya. So they tried to bomb him, to bomb his headquarters. So it bombs all around the house, our house. And we didn't go in the cellar. We were scared to go in the cellar because there's the only one entrance. You can keep buried there. So I stayed under the table. That would have helped. I was so scared. Wow, was I scared? Oh, why? Everybody was scared. We didn't have any defense. And the bombs were coming. We hear a... you hear them, it's so near. But they killed about 200 Jews that night. That's all. They didn't kill one Russian.
They just kept on hitting houses.
Yeah, they didn't know where, they didn't have good intelligence. They had some intelligence because they sent flares, so there were some Romanians left to send flares to show where they live. But they were arrested by the Russians. Anyway,
So what was the town like the next morning?
the next morning goes all funerals, what was that?
Was everything in pieces? All the houses in pieces?
No. They used very small bombs. They had 1 plane or 2 planes coming. That's all they had. Nothing. And what happened, however, some bombs did not explode. So we had to get the Russians to please them to deactivate them and take them away. They were on the cellars. We found bombs unexploded. You're so bad. See, they didn't have anything. The Germans already.
They were already on their last legs.
Their last legs. So they just.
It's gonna end, and he said it's ending now.
Okay. So we'll continue another day. Thank you. Francine, I have to go to the bathroom badly. Francine. Anyway,